Okay, and in my last episode there about the leaves, I forgot to mention about the different kinds of stems. And the reason I mixed them together, or I said I was going to mix them together, is because, like I said, with lettuce plants, they don't really grow a stem, okay? But other plants do grow a stem, like, I guess I'll show you the tomato again because it's close by, or I'll start with the tomato. So there's the stem of the tomato, okay? So it starts at the soil. Right below there would be all the roots. So the root system is below to collect the water and get the nutrients. The stem is here to hold up the plant, right? So if the stem wasn't strong, okay, then as the leaves grew, they would just sort of fall to the ground. But because the plant is always trying to reach up to the sun to get more energy, it grows a stem to support everything else, okay? And on a tomato plant, it's going to support the tomatoes later on as well, okay, because the tomatoes can be quite heavy. But for now, it's just supporting the plant to get to the sun. And, you know, from the stem, you can see from the stem, that's where the leaves come out of. Okay, so the leaves are kind of an extension of the stem. Okay, so that's one stem. But here's another stem that it doesn't really, so with the tomato plant, it holds the plant up. But with this type of plant, which is a cucumber plant over here, the stem is here. You can see the stem, okay, but it doesn't really hold the plant up. Now I've helped the plant climb, okay. You can see on a cucumber plant, another part of the stem is this thing here, which is the tendril. Okay, so tendrils are like little hands for cucumbers, and I can show you what I mean, because they hold on to things to help them climb. And I'm looking for one that's holding on to, yeah, here we go. So you can see here, there's a tendril, and it's holding on to this string and this wire to hold itself up. Okay, and as it grows, as a cucumber plant grows, you can see it goes up the stem, and then where there's a branch, okay, there's also a tendril. And there's something else special, which I'll talk about when we get to the seed part. But that's another kind of stem. So it doesn't stand up on its own on a cucumber plant. You kind of have to help it. Otherwise, a cucumber stem just crawls along the ground, okay? And it spreads out wide. Instead of going tall to reach the sun, it just goes really wide so that it can cover a whole bunch of area and collect a whole bunch of sun. Okay, so those are two stems. And then we can look at back to the calendula flower, this really pretty flower, and it's also a medicinal flower. It does good things for your body and for your skin. This one, I'm gonna sacrifice a flower by plucking it off. So here, there's the stem, right? We saw the little version of the calendula, and I can show you the small version again. So there's the one with really out any stems. It's mostly just leaves, but you can see a flower bud starting here, and because the flowers are starting, so is the plant starting to grow a stem. Okay, and kind of like the tomato plant. So the tomato plant is growing tall with the stem so that its leaves can reach the sun. The calendula plant is growing stems so it can push the flowers up tall. The reason they want to push it up tall is because they want the bees and the insects to come into the flower, collect the nectar, and while it's collecting the nectar, I don't know if you can see in there, it's hard to tell, but sometimes you can see inside plants there's little bits of yellow, and that would be pollen. And the pollen, when it gets mixed around from flower to flower, so if a bee, on this calendula plant, if a bee came in and landed here, took some nectar, landed here, and landed here, when it mixes the pollen up into the flowers, that helps the plant because it helps it produce seeds, which we'll talk about in a second. But that's another version of a stem. So the flower stem to push the flowers up into the air, okay? So the stem is kind of like your bones in your body. If you didn't have any bones, you wouldn't be able to stand up. You'd just be a big blob. Same with plants. Without stems, they would just, be on the ground all the time, kind of like the cucumber plant. All right, so that's my little episode about stems.